We are going to do some questions kind of one at a time. They're going to be all from module 1 of the math, which I told you is critical. Some are going to be really easy and some are going to suck. So just kind of be prepared for that. But the way that we are going to do it is we might not get to every one for the sake of the timer on the test, or I might go back in and do that, but we're going to go through them one by one. And then what we are going to do is I am going to release you guys to actually do a module 1 on your own, and I will walk you through how to do that as well. Want to do a practice test to like boost your skills, you do not have to do all of these sections. I love to go in, especially when it gets closer to test time, and just literally spend time on one module of the practice test. It gives you that stress of the timer, but at the same time doesn't take forever. I love these questions because it sounds fancy, but in the figure graph y equals f of x, how many values of x does f of x equal 0? It just means how many times it's going over the x-axis. So the answer is 3. That's perfect. You've got lines P and Q are given, which are parallel to each other, and a transversal S is intersecting them. Find the value of x, and the answer is going to equal B, where they both match each other because they are parallel. Perfect. Okay, so the function g is defined as follows. G of y equals 150% of y. Which of the following could describe this function? So you have two words that you might have not seen in a while. You've got exponential and you've got linear. So this top graph here is linear. That just means it goes up in a straight line. And then exponential kind of tends to have a carrying capacity or just honestly a crazy curve. So these are our two examples. And since it goes up pretty much 150%, it's kind of a clean curve. The answer on linear. Okay, so these type honestly end up on almost every single SAT test I have taken, I have seen, I have done with a book, and so they're not going away. You are looking for it in terms of R and you need to solve and simplify. So on this problem, given the equation R equals M over 5 n over 7, which relates the distinct positive numbers R, M, and M, this is pretty much a bunch of fluff in this problem, which equation correctly expresses 5n minus 7 in terms of R and M. So what most people trip over with this is just a simplification factor. So what I did is I multiplied both sides, and technically there should be parentheses here, of 5n minus 7, and then I'm going to go bam, bam, I'm going to cancel that out. And then over here, you're kind of left with these two. But the problem is you are stuck with R. So what you have to do is you got to divide both sides by R, which at that point is going to make it equal to M over R, which the answer is A. And then this 5n minus 7 will be carried down here. Any questions on that one? It's a little bit weird to you. So on this question, it says if 45 is cubed, so you've got 45 over 60, and then you could put Q over 100 because that's pretty much the mystery. And then you might know what to do at this point. You would go ahead and you would cross multiply. And so what that is going to overall solve to is Q is going to equal 75. Okay, so this one is one of the few times you would actually use this magical thing called a reference sheet, which some of y'all may have not known this was here. But in this option, it says the volume of a sphere in centimeters cubed with a radius of 4 centimeters. Okay. So I typed it out pretty simply by what is the volume of the sphere in centimeters cubed with a radius of 4 centimeters. It goes V equals 4/3 pi 4 to the power of 3. And then you simplify down. So the answer on this one is D. This is the reference sheet. Most of the time, it is completely useless, but one or two questions it might be helpful. So the equation of the above represents a line in the xy plane, which of the following is equivalent forms of the equation displayed. So I will tell you, most of you guys are used to the form y equals mx plus b. This right here is in standard form. They are not nice. They're probably not going to give you y equals mx plus b. They are going to put it in standard form, which is ax minus by equals 20. And then what is going to happen is they're going to expect you to move things around, which is what I have worked on out on the left. So this equation above represents a line in the xy plane, which of the following equivalent forms of the equation displays the slope and y-intercept of this line as constants or coefficients. That's a bunch of fancy words for saying which one is y equals mx plus b. So if you solved this correctly, the answer on this one is this is going to be actually when we are going to make friends with Desmos, because most of y'all are not going to want to solve this by hand. I mean, so this one you can solve by hand, but it is a pain in the rear. So this is what I do is for this problem where it is asking with these exponents, like, how do you find x plus y? I click on my beautiful calculator button, the fancy Desmos, and then I go ahead and type it in. Now, it does get a little tricky, and you're welcome just to go like type in desmos.com, and it's the same calculator. And then I type in 8. So what I did, same system, is I plugged in exactly into Desmos this right here. Whenever I see X and Y's, that tells my brain to be like, okay, you got to plug this bad boy into Desmos. So I did that. And the kicker is you have to use the parentheses when it's like 8 to the power of y plus 1. And then what I'm looking at, this has exactly one solution, which was a good catch, x comma y. And both of them are, so you typically pull from the x-axis in most of the problems, but both x and y are pretty much either 3 comma 0 or 0 comma 3. And then you add them up. So the answer is 3. Okay, I will take that as y'all got it. And my rant in the beginning about needing to check your work. Okay, so this one is solve the inequality. Yes, sometimes you can put inequalities in Desmos. It's just going to take too much time. Okay. Okay, so this being said, you are simplifying an inequality. I don't love inequalities. They're kind of annoying. But that being said, you are going to pretty much isolate your x, and my squiggly lines look more like y's. So I'm going to fix that partially out of OCD. And then what you're doing is you're going to divide by 3. So it's going to equal 15. Now, if you were dividing by a negative number, what would happen? Good, you flip the sign. And what things sometimes trips up students is if you divide by a positive, you don't flip the sign, but if you divide by a negative, you always flip the sign. Okay, so this one is a little bit tricky and it messes up a lot of people, but pretty much you need to try to do some conversions to convert feet per minute into inches per second. Pretty much what I do is I set up my conversions so that I can cancel all of the units out. I turn it into inches and seconds. Okay, what is the mean of the following data? This question is a trap if you figure out the word mean. So a little refresher, mean and the words average mean the same thing. You add them all up and then you divide by the number there, which makes the answer B. Yeah, and these ones are a little bit stinky. So like for most of you guys, you did these in like elementary school, and that's not like a slight. It's just been a hot minute. So, but they like to throw in these little math words in there. So I like to make sure we touch on them. Okay. You are going to see potentially us like the This one, I'm going to warn you, is a monster trap. In true transparency, when I first look at this and I glanced at it from a distance, I'm like, oh yeah, it's C. And then I was like, looking at it, I'm like, oh gosh, no, they got me again. That all being said, this is a great reminder to read the problems really closely. So your first temptation on this is to honestly go in there, you find the percentage of people and then apply it to 2000. So when I take my handy calculator, I go 250 divided by 400. That's about 62.5%. Then I go times 2000. And then I'm like, okay, 1250. I got it. I'm a winner. I'm going to get a perfect score on the SAT. But it says, then how many votes would T be expected to win over coffee? So this turns into actually a subtraction problem. So the rest of the people would be, I would take 150 divided by 400 to get my percentage of our coffee people, which I'm a bit of a coffee person. I used to be more of a tea person. And then I would multiply that by 2000, which would be 750. And then I would subtract, which would make it 500. Okay, so this function right here is a little bit of annoying to say the least. So fun fact on the SAT is the questions that are marked to be harder, which you're not going to know, but the SAT is going to know, they give more points. The fun thing is they don't tell us how many points extra they give per hard problem, which is a little annoying, but I digress. So this one right here is Desmos is going to be my best friend, but I just see where it says the function h of x equals 3x squared plus 48x plus 245. The function I is defined by I parentheses x equals h x minus 4. For what value of x does I reach the minimum? So minimum is just going to be, this is a little bit pre-calcy, but if you're not a pre-calc fan, that's okay. The minimum is just going to be the bottom value. Here is the trap a lot of people apply. Is yes, you can type this into Desmos, but you have to type it in correctly. It's x minus 4 because this is going to happen to each of the x's, and this is how it's going to look. So you're going to see me type this in, and then I'm going to go x minus 4 squared plus 48 x minus 4 plus 245. Now, that being said, I'm going to be looking for errors. And when you see it on Desmos kind of disappear, then you know you got to find it. So I am going to be looking at this bottom value. It says for x value, what does the I of x reach? Its minimum, it is going to be negative 4. It was weird. The I honestly is, it's just naming the function. So this one, it's not super complicated, but this is a totally hardcore missed problem. Please go ahead and try this, and please note, you are focusing hyper in on this word perpendicular. So make sure you keep that in mind. Okay, I see a couple answers, and that's good. So on the right-hand side, what I did is I put this in y equals mx plus b form. Great. Now, when you have a slope that is perpendicular, what do we need to do? Does anybody know? You flip it and you add a negative. So it's called the negative reciprocal, but pretty much it would be negative 1/2, and that's how they're going to be perpendicular. Awesome. Okay, so this one, especially if you've not taken pre-calc, you're going to think this is crazy, but I'm going to show you the cheater way to do it. Not actually cheating, but it feels like cheating. Okay, so if g of 2 equals 4 and g of 5 equals -2, what is the x-intercept of the line represented by the function g of x? Which sounds like a bunch of garbly goop, especially if you are not a fan of math. So all they're doing there, g of 2, that means where x is 2, y is going to be equal to 4. So they're giving us 2 points, which is going to be 2, 4. And then we've also got 5, -2. Those are our 2 points. Now, you can calculate by hand, but it's going to take you a hot minute. I'm going to show you how to do it on Desmos, which is more fun. So over in Desmos, I'll show you a new little feature, is I click this little plus sign, and then I click the button table, and then I'm going to make a table. So it is. And so like, and then it just says table. It is cool. 5, and then we've got a -2. So I'm doing really nothing crazy over here. And then this is where it's key. You're going to see this button, add regression. You do not have to know what on earth the word regression means, but it does the magic for you. So when I do this, I see a line, which is so amazing. I'm like, that takes off so much work. And then what is asking, it says, what is the x-intercept that is represented? And I find my x-intercept is 4, and then I'm done with the problem. Okay, so this one is a perfect Desmos one. When you see a quadratic equation, you're just like, yes, you hit the jackpot. So what I do is I see my quadratic equation and I just start typing it into Desmos because I have no time to factor. So you're going to see me type this in. 9x equals -12. You don't even have to make it pretty or move around. So look at this. It says, what is the positive solution to the given equation? The answer is, do you guys know? I kind of did the work, but maybe you know. The answer is 4, if you can see it on here. I can promise good money that there's going to be a question exactly like this in the test, so please speak up if you have no idea what I just did. Almost always, yes, but for me, I know to take the x value because all I'm seeing is x's. Does that make sense? Yeah. So they kind of land that. That was a good question. That's a good question. So if you see ones that are a pain in your rear, I typically skip them and then you go back because you want to get as many dang points as you can. One good thing is if it's multiple choice, like answer it and you can actually flag it for later. So I do this, I click mark for review, and then I know that I guessed and I need to go back. So you don't want to waste your time, especially I know some people that can knock their scores out of the park, especially with the math section, because math comes really easy, but they won't score as high because they wasted 5 minutes on a problem that they should have just, guessed and move on. So let me go over exponents real quick. So in this function, this was the last one I'm going to go over, and then we will go over some more next time because I want to take time for you guys to do a little bit of a jump in deep. So the exponential function is divide f of x equals 12b to the power of x, and b is the positive constant. If f of 2 equals 1,728, what is the value of f of 5? So this one here, there's not much of a Desmos hack. Okay, if you're stuck, I'm starting to work it out, which is exciting. Okay, so on this problem here, what you need to go ahead and do is you need to find b. Sometimes you don't have to find the constant, but this one you kind of have to. And then what you do is once you find the b, then you plug it back in to the formula. If you're confused why I went b to the power of 2 equals 144 to 12 equals b, I square rooted that. And then what I am plugging in from there is I will go 12 times the base is 12, but then what's more important is you do to the power of 5, which is going to equal your answer A, which is ridiculously large, 2,985,984. Infinitely many, that means the lines have to overlap, but I think some of these I'm going to save more for next time just because they take a lot more explanation.